Hi there, you're listening to a podcast that's created and sponsored by Second Avenue Baptist Church. If you enjoy what you hear today, check out our website and app by visiting secondavenuembc.org. You can find our mobile app and tons more content, podcasts, sermons, and more by searching for Second Avenue on the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. With that being said, let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome to episode 53 of Decision Point. Today we'll be discussing Noah's Ark. Was it a literal account? And if so, how did all those animals fit on the ark? Well, thank you for joining me today. And remember, if you have a question that you would like answered on Decision Point, you can go to Second Avenue Missionary Baptist Church's social media accounts. Write your question with the hashtag DecisionPoint. And now to look at today's question, was Noah's Ark a literal event? And if so, how did all those animals fit on the ark? Well, let's go immediately to the scripture, Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 through 14. And today I'll be reading from the King James Version. It says, "And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thought of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, and it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth." Verse 11, "The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said to Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth." And verse 14, "Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch." So it's pretty clear here in the repetitive nature that the earth was just completely in wickedness and evilness. Violence filled the earth, and the only generations which were righteous were Noah and his sons. So moving down to Genesis chapter 7, let's look at the construction of the ark and see what God commanded him regarding the animals. So Genesis 7, 2 and 3 say, "Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, and the male and his female. Of the beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female. Of the fowls of the air by sevens, the male and female, to keep seed alive on the earth." Now there's more in the account, obviously, of how large the ark should be and more details. But let's jump down to Genesis 7 about the animals. Genesis chapter 7, verse 2 through 3 says, "Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female. And of the beasts that are not clean by 2s, the male and his female. Of the fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth." So the reason that God decided to destroy the earth was because violence had become so prevalent, and every man's heart was evil except for Noah. And then he provides a way in this account for the earth to be repopulated. So we'll have Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, their 3 daughters for the human race. And then he has set aside every kinds of animals coming through. So before we talk about the actual literal account of the ark, let's talk about the animals for a second. Now, according to Answers in Genesis Ministries, they've come up with an estimate of how many pairs of animals are actually necessary. They came up with 7,876 pairs, male and female, of all the animals. Now, they base this by using the word in the Bible when it says kind as the categorization or classification in taxonomy as the family or genus. So not to get too technical here, but dogs come from the family Canidae. And in the Canidae family, only the wolf-like creatures, animals, cannot interbreed with the rest of the Canidae. When you go down to the genus classification of Canis, or canines as we call them, every single canine can interbreed. And then from canines, you go down into this different species, Canis familiaris, all the animals that we have, domesticated dogs. Well, it would appear, using either the genus or family as our kind from the Bible, that really Noah only needed one pair of alpha Canidaes, meaning that from that apex, whatever the animal was, and you look back into all of the fossil records and see there are obviously Canidaes, big dogs that were larger than even the wolves that we have today. And so whatever that animal would have been, if they had one pair of that had every trait and characteristic of the Canidae family, then they could produce, interbreed, interspeciation changes, variations that are adaptable to different climates and areas of the earth as they spread across the earth. They could change actually very rapidly. The same thing for felines. If you had one set of alpha felines, whatever that might have been, then the variation of the counts of each one of the species could come from that, because you can always lose information through your offspring. You can never gain information. That's an evolutionary idea, which I reject, and I believe the Bible rejects also. And actually science, according to the Human Genome Project, rejects that idea as well, interestingly enough. But out of context, the question then arises, there's so many species of dogs. So if you just had one pair, how can that one pair speciate into so many today? Well, technically, there are only about 200 species of dogs currently today, different breeds of domesticated dogs, rather. If you really break that down into all the crossbreeding, all the ones that aren't necessarily recognized, you could get up to 400 or so. But just for context, there have been 22 new species of dogs that have been recognized in the last 10 years. So in 10 years alone, through interbreeding, adaptability, that kind of stuff, we've introduced 22 new species of dogs. That's just in 10 years. We're talking about over 4,000 years since the flood. So it is easily done through speciation to change from one set to over 400. Could be thousands by now of different species. And we talk about species and all the scientific terms, but remember, species can interbreed with other species of the same genus. So that doesn't mean they're going to produce a viable offspring who can then also produce offspring just like them. But that speciation is very plausible and very possible, scientifically speaking. Now, estimations of the ark itself. As large as it was, when you get the cubits and the heights and the breadth and the depth and how large this ark really was, and just for an example, if you go to Kentucky, there's an ark encounter, which my family's been to, and the ark was huge, ginormous. But estimates range that up to 50,000 animals could have fit on the ark with cargo, food and all. And speaking logically, it would make sense that if God wanted to respeciate the planet, repopulate the planet, he would have chosen juvenile animals. So we're not talking two pair of large African elephants and the largest giraffes and the largest of everything. If you think that you would want the juvenile animals, number one, for more space on the ark, number two, for length of reproduction years after the flood subsides. So according to just logic and fitting the Bible account into historical narrative, looking at all the science behind it, easily could have fit 50,000 juvenile animals onto the ark. And according to the speciation average of all the animals, you only need about 8,000 pairs of animals. So there was plenty of room on the ark, and there is plenty of science to back up how the flood account itself was a literal account in the Bible. But if you want more information on the science behind the flood, all the things that happened to the world, the viability of the account itself through historical narratives, I would encourage you to go to a couple of ministries and websites. One I mentioned already, the Ark Encounter. There's also one called the Ark of Noah Ministries, the Creation Museum, Answers in Genesis, and there's so many others that give great scientific explanation and answers to demonstrate that Noah's flood indeed was a literal account as recorded in the Bible. Thank you for that question, and I hope my answers today were clear enough at least to direct you to the right people who can make it really clear and give you a much better explanation. Looking forward to seeing you again next Monday, so won't you join me for another Decision Point?
Thank you for listening today, and if you enjoyed what you heard, consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review. It will help us reach more people just like you who need to hear this message. Also remember that you can stay connected with us by downloading our mobile app. Just search for Second Avenue spelled out on the App Store or Google Play Store. Thank you again for listening, and God bless.